All right, greetings. Welcome back to Blackburn News, where everything is connected. How y'all doing? Thanks for hanging out with me today and every day. And good to see y'all here. We're live on Rockfin, Callin, and on YouTube. And my coffee is pretty, yes, it is warm. Warmish. Uh, yeah, anyways, you can thank Poppy for the. I'm quiet on Callin. Okay. I wonder why. Is it better now, North? Maybe I don't know. Maybe that has something to do with it. Yes. Okay. Cool. Didn't realize that controlled my volume on Colin. Interesting. Okay. Thanks for letting me know, North. Anyways, hello, people. People of the world. That yes, you can thank Poppy for the title of the show, and we'll talk about what that means and the various ways in which we're just messing it up. Oh, I guess we'll go straight to this. Hold on, I want to go back here for a second. Um, yeah, there's the economic thing definitely seems to be a thing, right? Even though your deposits are insured, we're insuring all depositors forever and ever. It's going to be fine. I mean, that you got to do something, I guess. But the cracks are definitely showing, and so I'm reading that they're closing some Walmart stores, and Facebook is laying off more people. But anyways, first of all, we'll do this one. Not that one. This one. A Plastic World. This is new and terrifying at the same time. Oh, hold on one second. New and terrifying at the same time because pollution has reached geology, said Fernanda Avelar Santos, a geologist at the Federal University of Parana. Brazilian researchers find terrifying plastic rocks on remote island. Mm-hmm. The geology of Brazil's volcanic Trindade Island has fascinated scientists for years, but the discovery of rocks made from plastic debris in this remote turtle refuge is sparking alarm. Melted plastic has become intertwined with rocks on the island. Located 1,140 kilometers from the southeastern state of Espiritu Santo, which researchers say is evidence of humans' growing influence over the Earth's geological cycles. Santos and her team ran chemical tests to find out what kind of plastics are in the rocks, called plastiglomerates, because they are made of a mixture of sedimentary granules and other debris held together by plastic. We identified the pollution mainly coming from fishing nets, which is very common debris on Trinidad Island's beaches. pronounced that wrong the first time. The nets are dragged by the marine currents and accumulate on the beach. When the temperature rises, this plastic melts and becomes embedded with the beach's natural material. Wow. Well, they're spelling Trindade or Trinidade two separate ways in this article. I'm confused on how to pronounce it. Anyways, it's one of the world's most important conservation spots for green turtles, or Chelonia mitis, with thousands arriving each year to lay their eggs. And, hopefully they're munching on a little bit of plastic there, keep up their strength. No, I hope they're not. The place where we found these samples of plastic is permanently preserved, a permanently preserved area in Brazil near the place green turtles lay their eggs. The discovery stirs questions about humans' legacy on the earth. We talk so much about the Anthropocene, this is it. Yep. That's horrifying. Yes, Extra Bulla, I saw that one too. And I thought I had that article. I actually wanted to talk about that. Due to warming waters. Yeah, thanks for bringing it up. I appreciate it. I had that article somewhere about the extra sargassum seaweed. And there's more and more of it because of warming waters, and also fertilizer, right? And Florida, they're talking about this coming into Florida. Florida is also the place where they have a lot of algae blooms in the ocean and also in the rivers. So yeah, there's a bunch of stories about this all over the place, but just quickly, we'll look at this. This is the beaches of Tulum. That's in Mexico, right? As I understand it, sargassum seaweed began showing up in small quantities during peak summer around 2011. It's now piled up to a meter high in February. Scientists believe it's a consequence of rising sea temps and fertilizer runoff. Yikes. Oh, you got a link for me. Thank you. All right, well, let's just check this link. Hold it. Here we go. Cool. Yeah, I've been seeing the story for the last couple days. I don't know why I didn't make it into the show yet, but here we are. 5,000-mile long blob of seaweed heads for Florida. Sargassum seaweed makes its way to the beaches of Central Florida every year. But something is feeding the annual bloom, and scientists using satellite images say there's more out in the Atlantic Ocean than ever before. I'm going to guess it's probably more around it's probably more around the rising temperature of the sea, right? Sorry, got lost here a little bit. Anyways, the thick layer of sargassum stretches for approximately 5,000 miles, equivalent to twice the width of the United States. 5,000 miles. Think about that. And it floats between the Gulf of Mexico and shores of West Africa. While these giant mats of algae can serve as a home for some marine animals and can absorb carbon dioxide, they are being carried westward by ocean currents, leading to hundreds of tons of seaweed washing up on beaches across the Caribbean and Gulf of Mexico. What's amazing is this is usually the downtime, said Brian Barnes. Well, because the oceans would be a little bit colder at this time of year, wouldn't they? The quantities we saw this time last year is larger than what we saw during the peak times of July and August when it would be warmer. What did I say? I think it's more about the ocean temps. It's more about the temperature of the ocean being way higher than it should be. The amount of sargassum is growing each month, as it usually does, but what's different now is that the starting point is so much larger this year. January's amount was 20% bigger than the previous record. All indications are that we will continue to see an increase and see another record bloom. And don't forget El Nino. El Nino. And they're going to do the usual scientists, think it could be this, and it also could be this, and it could be, whatever. Yeah, that's a throwdown. Sargassum seaweed versus the Pacific garbage gyre. There's a commotion in the ocean. Who will take the title? Yeah. Yeah, so that's been happening. Thanks for that heads up. Remember Hurricane Freddy? Yes, obsolete optics. Scientists are mystified, baffled, puzzled, stumped, curious, perplexed, alarmed, shocked, appalled, confused, stunned, horrified, clueless, worried, terrified, frustrated, scared, concerned, bewildered. You got perplexed in there. That's a good one. Perplexed. Scientists think it could be due to a number of factors. But one of the leading causes could be ... fill in. Anyways, this is Hurricane Freddy, or Cyclone Freddy, whatever you want to call it. One of the strongest cyclones ever recorded in the southern hemisphere is devastating Malawi and Mozambique right now. This is the same Cyclone Freddy, right? The record long Cyclone Freddy. I don't think it could be any other storm. Yeah, the longest lasting cyclone ever in recorded history. And has hit Mozambique twice. That's wild. How often does that happen? How often do you have a hurricane travel all across the continental United States and hit not only the Gulf Coast, but New York City? That is not supposed to happen. That happened, when, last year or the year before? Last year or two. Or a hurricane go all the way from, Puerto Rico and hit and, devastate the shore of Canada, right? Not saying it's never happened, but, for such a rare thing to occur next to all these other rare things occurring could lead you to conclude, if you took the whole and looked at it on the whole and the macro, and you go, something is going on. Something. I don't know. This goofball Ian, I see him on my Twitter feed. I don't know, some of his takes are cool, but he's decidedly in the truther world. But they're saying these intensified hurricanes are due to solar flares, or HARP, or I thought we were going in an ice age. But it cannot be climate change. Whatever it is, it can't be climate change. It cannot be. Absolutely not. I know these things. I'm a medical doctor. Yeah. Let's keep going. Let's keep going. We'll stay in we will stay. What is going on? Sorry, guys. Stay in the realm of what we are doing to the planet. From Fantomas. New study just released yesterday on industrial chemical linked to Parkinson's. Let's check this out. Trichloroethylene. Trichloroethylene. Let me just pronounce that right. An invisible cause of Parkinson's disease. Yeah, there's all these chemicals out there. There's the dioxins and the vinyl chlorides and all the things. And the glyphosates, all those delicious chemicals. A lot of them make up the plastics that are turning into rocks and turning into our geology. And soon we'll just live. We'll live on plastic and we'll eat plastic. And probably poop plastic too. Anyways, they're finding that they say other less visible factors must be at play for a risk of Parkinson's. Among these is widely used industrial solvent and common environmental contaminant, little recognized for its role in Parkinson's. Trichloroethylene. TCE is a simple 6-atom molecule that can decaffeinate coffee. Better stick to caffeinated. Degrease metal parts. It can decaffeinate coffee or degrease metal, whatever you want. It's magic. And dry clean clothes. Oh. And the colorless chemical was first linked to Parkinsonism in 1969. That's a long time ago. Since then, 4 case studies involving 8 individuals have linked occupational exposure to TCE to PD. Another study found that occupational or hobby exposure to the solvent was associated with a 500% increased risk of developing Parkinson's. In multiple animal studies, the chemical reproduces the pathological features of Parkinson's. Well, golly gee, either that's a huge coincidence or it causes Parkinson's. I wonder. Yeah. So, yeah, that's we postulate that this ubiquitous chemical is contributing to the global rise of Parkinson's, and that TCE is one of the invisible and highly preventable causes. Highly preventable causes. Anyways, this is from published yesterday in the iOS Press Content Library. And Punky Zoolander sent me this. This is another, just more evidence of exposure to these forever chemicals. Dangerous forever chemicals were found in turf at the Philadelphia Phillies' old stadium after 6 former players died of the same cancer. You could get cancer playing baseball. I wonder, forever chemicals are found in the turf. So were they playing on like AstroTurf? Or was this, what I don't know is if they had regular turf and these were like pesticides or some kind of chemicals, or if this is AstroTurf. Anyways, I see you, Fantomas. Give me a second. I'll take your call. An investigation into the deaths of 6 former Philadelphia Phillies players from the same type of brain cancer. That's wild. Has anybody heard about this before? I haven't until now. Former Phillies relief pitcher David West died last year. Oh, it was AstroTurf. Reporters from the Philadelphia Inquirer purchased pieces of the AstroTurf available for sale online to have them tested for chemicals. Wow. Philadelphia Inquirer doing some inquiring, doing some journalism. Man, give it up for the Philadelphia Inquirer. Huh. They were playing on AstroTurf. They all died of the same brain cancer. Maybe we should test the AstroTurf. Good on you. Good on you. Anyways, it's lovely to see people actually do journalism. And this would be covered under doing journalism. Excuse me. Anyways, the artificial turf was used for years and replaced several times at Veterans Stadium, where both the Philadelphia Eagles, and Philadelphia Phillies players, played from 1971 to 2003. Well, I wonder, these guys died of the same brain cancer. I wonder if any other types of cancer, or, what, Parkinson's or Alzheimer's, or, right? Did anybody, has anybody else had issues that could possibly be tied to these? Is an AstroTurf plastic? Anyways, the Inquirer hired a lab to test for 70 different per and polyfluoroalkyl substances, which are commonly referred to as PFAS, or forever chemicals. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention considers them dangerous because they do not break down easily in the environment and can contaminate drinking water. Anyways, the test performed by Eurofin's Lancaster Laboratories Environmental Testing found 16 PFAS in the turf samples, including perfluorooctanoic acid and perfluorooctane sulfonic acid. According to the Inquirer, PFOA and PFOS are two of the most studied PFAS, as they have been produced and used the most. The labs that performed the tests told the Inquirer that the levels present in the turf would be concerning if they were found in drinking water, but less is known about the effects of repeated skin contact with the chemicals. I would think that that baseball players would have less skin contact than football players with the ground. Wouldn't the football players be having more of the brain cancer? Anyways. The turf used in the stadium, where recorded temperatures were regularly over 100 degrees. Now, there you go. There's a factor. During summer Phillies games, also could have released chemical vapors that were inhaled by the players, according to the Inquirer. Wow. There you go. There's probably there you go. The heat released chemical vapors. Phillies responded to the report, saying several brain cancer experts have told the organization there is no proven link between the turf and the deaths of the 6 players who all died before the age of 60. However, the Inquirer reported that other experts cited studies finding PFAS in brains, one by Chinese researchers that found the chemicals in brain tumor tissue. Wow. And another by Italian scientists that found PFAS in the brains of people who drank water contaminated with the chemicals. The Phillies played their last game at the stadium in September 2003, and it was demolished in March 2004. Wow. Tug McGraw was one of them. One of my favorite old school baseball players. I used to follow baseball quite a lot. 6 former players. Phillies, Tug McGraw, Darren Dalton, I remember him, John Vukovich, remember him, John Oates, Ken Brett, and David West all died of glioblastoma, an aggressive form of brain cancer. The tumor is most common among those in their demographic, white men between the ages of 40 and 70, a neurologist told the Inquirer. But The rate at which it was found in the over 500 fillies who played on the turf for years is about 3 times higher than the average rate. Could be a link. We don't know. That's very interesting. Very interesting. All right. Real quickly before I take this call, really good way to support the show is at buymeacoffee.com/blackbearnews. Another great way to support the show is Rockfin Tips, YouTube Super Chats, and there are links for Venmo and Cash App in the description box. And thank you guys for your support. All right, Fantomas, how you doing?
Well, my thing about plastics and anything of that nature is if the smell is anything that's off with the smell, I try to stay away from as much as possible.
Yeah, well, that would be an immediate no, right? You know, when you you buy things at the store that are like made in, you know, some cheap plastic toys that are made in China, and they always have that like gasoline smell.
Yeah,
those are ones you should never bring into your house, ever bring into your house.
Or you know what's crazy? Like I've seen the evolution of sneaker stores. Yeah. So when you go into a sneaker store now, the level of just everything coming at you at once, of the plastic aroma on every single level, it's crazy now. And to me, it's obvious that a lot of these chemicals, they've gotten such a pass on so many areas where it concerns regulations and codes, that now it's all coming home to roost for all of us.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. My issue, you know, with the train wreck in East Palestine, you know, everybody's like, how could this happen? This is horrible. And the corruption and the deregulation. And I was like, why are we even shipping these things? Like, why are we even making stuff out of this stuff? Like, let's go to the source of like, why are we even using this stuff? Because it's so, you know, dang dangerous. It's so dang, you know, omnicidal, right? Like what, you know, why are we even doing, you know, why are we even allowing for these chemicals to be in use? But I don't know. That's just my question.
Well, to me, it's interesting also because of the fact of there's never really any discussion for alternatives and substitutes. We just continue to put codes and regulations on everything that we can, and we know that those codes and regulations are really softball and not going to stick, and someone is going to find a way to, you know, get their way around it. All these companies and corporations, and I just find that interesting. I'm guessing, this is just a guess, I'm guessing a lot of these chemical companies, we can find alternatives, and if we can't find alternatives, we put a price out there, $2 billion, $3 billion. Find us an alternative that is safe and effective as this chemical that we are currently using. And I bet you, Kev, we would find one really, really quick.
I'm sure we could, and that's, and I mean there are already alternatives, and it's mind-boggling to me that we are still, you know, everything is made from plastic, everything is wrapped in plastic, everything comes in, you know, even like Trader Joe's, a very popular store around the U.S. and one that I shop in often. But I hear this from everyone I know that goes to Trader Joe's. They're like, I love this store, and they're, you know, their whole thing is like natural foods and, you know, but for cheap, right? And like, so they're caters to people with a particular sentiment about like what they're buying or what they're putting in their body, and yet everything they sell comes in plastic, and everybody's like, you know, the conversation is always like, why do they wrap everything in plastic? You know, and it's, you know, like doubled wrapped or triple wrapped. It's like, guys, this has got to be, you know, you would, first of all, I would think that if you could find that alternative and offer that alternative, or offering a shopping experience which, you know, had like nothing wrapped in plastic, business would be booming, for one. I would think if you just made a store where it's like there's no plastic in this store, you'd have people on top of each other every single day trying to get into your store. You know, like, and so it was wild to me why we keep wrapping and making all this plastic. I don't get it. It must be, well, the reason that jumps to mind is A, the cheapness of it, and B, it's a byproduct of, you know, it's a fossil fuel, you know, it's just one in a long line of uses for fossil fuels.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. And before I go, I did want to mention the passing of a great music legend, Bobby Caldwell.
Yeah.
And he's, for people who don't know, he got his start with Little Richard's band in the 70s. He's a rhythm guitarist. And it's a very interesting story, Kev. What happened is that he failed in Beverly Hills. This is a story for people who are trying and persistent. He failed in Beverly Hills. His band did not. He was unable to get a record deal. He moves to Miami, back to Miami, his hometown, and he links up with this label called TK Records. And TK Records is really excited about his solo demo work. But then when they get the photos and the press photos and the promotion
Right.
stuff back, they say, "Oh, you're white."
You're white.
Yeah, we can't do that. They just didn't like the look of him. He wouldn't cut his hair. All this kind of stuff.
He just
So
yeah, he
Bob,
just looked like a regular like rocker dude.
yeah, so Bobby had the brilliant idea of like, oh, I know what I'm gonna do. He goes, I'm gonna make my own album cover. So he makes a silhouette of him sitting on a park bench. That's the album cover.
Right.
And what ends up happening is he ends up having this worldwide hit, "What You Won't Do for Love." I'm sure most people have heard
What
it.
you won't do for love, right?
Yeah. And so then he goes on tour a year later, and he's playing to mostly black audiences, and their mind is blown.
Nobody. Well, it's funny because I've seen several times on Facebook all through the years. There'll be people on my timeline, all black people like posting like, "Did you know this guy was white? Holy shit! I love this song." Like, but I had no idea this dude was white. That's crazy, right? Like, yeah.
He said for the first 10 minutes of the first show, playing to a whole black audience, he said they were not with him. But he said after that 10-minute mark, they were with him.
Right.
And so the moral of the story of me saying all this to everybody is Bobby couldn't make it in Beverly Hills. He went back to his hometown and gave it another try. So you never know, people. You never know where success is going to come. Take the spirit of Bobby Caldwell with you.
Yeah.
And also, Kev, he was resurrected with, as you know, the common song for sampling "Open Your Eyes," "The Light," and that was produced by Jay Dilla, another great music mind of the 20th century.
Right.
And so the thing is that he's found a new world of living and through samples that people have discovered him, and they come back to his music even more. And not to mention, Japan gave him a whole new realm of possibility. When he had the audience in Japan, they never left him.
Right.
So,
yeah,
listen to some Bobby Caldwell if you can. I suggest listening to his first album on TK Records. You can probably find it on Apple, Spotify. Just type it in and check it out, people.
Yep. And he had that, that's all he needed really was that one hit.
and the other thing that made him interesting is he was kind of like a Prince. He played guitar, he played bass, and he played drums, and he played keyboards, and he was equal to them all. And you can watch. There's a video. I think we mentioned it, but I think I mentioned it to you before, Kev. I believe I did. There's a video on YouTube that shows him performing "What You Won't Do for Love," and he's dressed up like a ZZ Top roadie with the trucker cap on. And he's got the aviator sunglasses on. And what's crazy about it, Kev, is there's a parasailing person in the sky at these summer concerts that they would do in California, I guess, in the 80s. And you see the people with the giant socks on all the way up, jacked all the way up to the short shorts. It's hilarious.
Right.
So if you ever get a chance, like type in "What You Won't Do for Love" live, California or something like that, and check that out. Because one of the interesting things about it is you get to see him, and he doesn't just sing; he plays guitar on there, and you see him do this crazy guitar solo too.
Nice.
So he was quite the talent.
Nice.
He was quite the talent.
Cool. We'll check it out.
So that's it for me for today.
All right. Thanks, man. Thanks for calling.
All right, later.
Appreciate it. Gene saying we could be using more clay, glass, and ceramics. Yeah, absolutely. Clay, glass, ceramics, metal, even. Anything but plastic. If you can get away from plastic as much as you can, it's a really good idea. Let's see. Where are we? I think we covered most of the pollution centric stuff. Um, I know there's a ton in the news about the banking situation today. Not as heavy in the news cycle, the banking situation, but it definitely that definitely had. Why is everybody talking about woke on Twitter? I don't know why everybody's talking about woke on Twitter. The word woke. I think they're talking about it because Brianna Joy Gray asked one of her guests, a woman that is on the Hill, what woke means, and she couldn't answer the question, and I guess that's why everybody is talking about it. But anyways, the banking thing, is still with us. Like I said, that Facebook has announced, or Meta has announced a bunch of layoffs. People are talking about Walmart closing down stores, and we're Jim Cramer says the Fed is on the cusp of a soft, safe landing in its inflation flight. So everybody's, whatever Jim Cramer says, the opposite happens. Right? Credit Suisse. Yeah, I mean, there are several banks, and they actually have halted trading on several bank stocks. Right, right, and that's from the last few days. Credit Suisse is right. They had to be halted. They're one of the banks that several banks. There's another one, not Credit Suisse, but why can't I? Schwab. Schwab is looking like it's having a rough time. Anyways, Moody's changes outlook on U.S. banking system to negative after SVB collapse. From negative to negative from stable. It cited heightened risks for the sector after the rapid unraveling of the SVB financial group, and also the Signature Bank in New York got shut down. It fueled fears of contagion. I don't know, but it's been up and down. The stock market's been up and down for the last couple of days, and I think people are just like, it looks like we might be in for a little bit of a ride, a wild ride, right? I don't want to speak negativity into existence. I don't want to speak like bad things into existence. However, it's a good time to be on the lookout. Have your attention and your awareness heightened. Did y'all heard about this one where they actually softened the regulations for said Silicon Valley Bank before it collapsed, right? Sounds like another story that we were talking about, right? We had this huge train derailment, this gigantic environmental disaster right after some serious deregulation went on. Well, all of these Democrats and Republicans together voted to deregulate Silicon Valley Bank. And look what you done get after you do stuff like that. Yeah. So you're like, you know what? Let's not hold them to the highest of standards, and let's see what happens. Oh, I see what happens. That's what happens when you take away the regulation, when you take away the guardrails or the safety rails. Creative Experiment says, I will stick to my prediction economic collapse this month. I am crossing fingers that you are wrong, because nobody really wants that. Like, nobody wants that. But be aware. As I said, Meta is laying off people. Facebook parent Meta to lay off 10,000 employees in second round of job cut. They already did let go of 11,000 employees 4 months ago, right? Yeah, it doesn't look good. And the way these things play out too is, they don't play out in a week. Doom porn sucks. They don't play out in a week. So I would really be on the lookout for this to be a slow. I do remember, more so the collapse of 2008 and how that that was kind of an unraveling. That was a year-long unraveling of the economy until they got to the point where it's like, oh, it's real bad right now. So I think we've already been in the unraveling and the slower unraveling of it. And inflation, high gas prices and inflation are always a great Kickstarter for economic collapse, right? Because you raise the price of everything when you do stuff like that, right? Like high gas prices will literally like raise the price of everything else, and then all of a sudden everybody's like, holy shit, I can't make it on the money I'm making every month from my JOB, or maybe I lost my JOB, and now I'm living on credit card, money, and I'm going steeper and steeper into debt, and I can't make my payments, and I can't make my house payments, and then pow, and then that happens to millions of people all at once. Wham! That's then you have some bank collapses, and then wham! Then the bottom drops out. That's how it goes, and that's how it went in 2008. And kind of the same scenario where gas was very expensive.
Unknown caller.
Stop it! Stop calling me when I'm trying to talk. Gas was very expensive, and there were a lot of theories on. I side with Michael Rupert about what was happening then. You want to say it was a housing crisis or some other, derivatives crisis, and sure, that was in there, but like you crank gas up, whatever, 50 or 100% higher than it's been for, and you keep it there for about 8 months and watch people just, watch everything unravel, because literally the same thing happened. Gas went way up, got very expensive, and it raised the price of everything else, and all of a sudden people were like, I cannot afford to drive to work, I can't afford to buy food anymore, holy shit, now I'm in credit card debt, holy shit, I can't make my mortgage payment, holy shit, and then wham, that's what happened. So same thing. What has been happening for the last year? Gas was like this high, and the whole time Biden's like, oh, we lower the price of gas, and the inflation is, it's not that bad, and everybody knows inflation's not 8%, it's like 40% or 80%, or whatever the cost of something that you usually buy at the store has gone up. For me, I've seen it. It's like 100% for some things. For like half the things I'm buying, inflation is 100%, not 8%. It's twice as much to buy some things I was buying a year ago. 2 years ago. That's 100% inflation, if I'm doing math correctly. And so when people are in that situation and you're like, oh, I can't even afford to go, Jesus, every time I walk into the store and buy like 3 things, it's like $20 or $30. Like I can't even afford to go to the store. So that is going to, that's the ripple effect right there. And then, you just want to throw some bank failures on top of that, and there you go. Not great. Not great. Not great. I don't see really anything major coming in the opposite direction, going like, well, yeah, we'll get you out of this. I don't see it. I mean, maybe money, maybe they think they'll print the money. Maybe. Or maybe they won't. All right, Brady, how you doing?
And trying to track down a source for this fluoride information about Ohio. It seems that they're adding fluoride to some of the plastics for like food production.
Oh yeah.
And that was one of the chemicals that spilled, and they're trying to cut that up as well. Like I haven't been able to find a single article talking about any fluoride spill involved in East Palestine, but I did find this TikTok of a girl in an animal beanie talking about it. So I was trying to track down a source through her. But,
Okay.
Yeah, and plastics are a big, fat, huge problem. We really need to have some regulations on trash. I think would be the first step in the right direction.
Right.
And packaging as well. There's so many things we could be doing better. But until then, yeah, the stuff's emasculating dudes. It's an estrogen mimicry. You've probably been over all that, right?
Oh, sure. Yeah, there's so many different knock-on effects. And I'm sure more conspiratorial minded people would say, those health problems are on purpose, right? When I asked kind of rhetorically the question of like, why are we still wrapping everything in plastic, or why are we still doing this? There's probably several reasons, economic reasons, or another use for fossil fuels reasons, or all kinds of things. But there's if you want to go to the side of like, well, maybe they want maybe they want people to have these problems, these issues. I don't know. It's good for the bottom line in so many ways.
And it keeps the medical industry running.
Oh yeah. Right.
But I'll see what I can do to track down some more information on how fluoride is integrated with the plastic in our foods, and I'll get back to you if I find anything.
Okay, cool. I appreciate it. Thanks. All right. They're still growing rice in California. I actually haven't seen any rice paddies in California for a while, so I didn't know whether they were still growing it in California. Yes, obsolete optics. The pharmaceutical industry and the petrochemical industry go hand in hand. For sure. Getting to the end of the day here. Just funny link from Jem Mendel. Jem Mendel has been kind of commenting on the George Monbiot goofiness. George Monbiot did a whole article about how Russell Brand was has crossed to the dark side and become a far right loony. And it's actually, it's unfortunate when people don't understand that they have become the loonies. They're actually the loonies, and they're really like tone deaf and can't really figure it out anymore. And Jem Bendel says if the comments on this tweet are anything to go by, another Guardian columnist has lost their support base in society. That doesn't end their platform, paycheck, or propaganda, though. Fortunately for them, the billionaire foundations and advertisers can prop it all up for them. And I can't really tell whether George Monbiot actually believes what he is saying anymore. Maybe he does, or maybe he's just a really convenient and believable mouthpiece for the narrative that he's helped shaping. Anyways, George Monbiot says, the fury I've faced in these past few days is a reminder that large numbers of people want to be misled. What? They get extremely upset when you point out that the information they've been fed is false. Again, this is like, you're so clueless, you're so lost that you can't, right? Like, thousands, if not millions of people understand, like, oh, we've actually been lied to by these mainstream, media sources and these outlets of propaganda, right? And George is going to attempt to turn it all around. These people they want to be misled. No, that's why they're telling you, George, to can it. This guy, George Monbiot. Anyways, he's lost in a very kind of sad way. He used to be somebody that I would read kind of frequently on the show, but he's just become well, I don't know, in a classic parlance, a shit lib. Just a massive, massive, raging shit lib, and just can't see the forest for the trees, can't even see past his own nose, like what is real or what's not real. Or maybe he's just getting paid very well to spread the message that he's spreading, I guess. To be a gatekeeper, to be a narrative shaper. Anyways, guys, I've got to take off, and that is all for me to date. Thank you so much for your eyes, your ears, and your conscience. Brady, did you have something
man.
before we go?
I found it. It was the polyethylene. It has apparently been fluoridated since the 70s when they petitioned for it. And apparently that's causing a synergistic toxicity with the vinyl chloride. So that was the news.
Oh, okay.
Trying to cover up.
Okay. Jesus. Of course, right? These chemicals all, interact with each other in a way that's, what would you call it? A threat multiplier.
Even worse. Become even worse than they are on their own. Synergistic toxicity.
Yep. All right. Thanks so much, Brady. I appreciate you for throwing that in there. All right, guys. I gotta take off, but thank you for your eyes, your ears, and your conscience. And I will be back tomorrow at the regular time of 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And until next time, peace.